Hi, my name is Michael Ferris, and I want to talk to you today about creativity in academia. I used to have a lot of anxiety focused specifically in English. With math, at least, the answers are either right or they're wrong, black and white thinking. And when I was younger, I believed that education should be black and white. But as I've gone on, and as I've grown in education status, I've realized that I've needed to have more authentic thoughts and deeper thoughts in my work. When I was younger, I believed that I could just say what the teacher wanted me to say. And now, as an adult, I've had to find a little tool to help me through that. Creativity is the most meaningful way for me to be both authentic and critical in my research. And by meaningful, I mean both relevant and well-utilized. To me, creativity is the ability to make original and innovative ideas. I've used creativity a lot, both as an artist and a writer, but I haven't used it much in academia until this course. Creativity helps me make personal connections to my schoolwork. A lot of the time I used to be very distant from it, but now I'm able to create my own interest in my work. By utilizing creativity in my actual projects, I'm able to have expressive freedoms that otherwise I wouldn't have. Isn't that right, Jojo? Ella? Jason? But humor is something that I'm able to use to amuse myself and hopefully the audience. This makes projects more interesting by appealing to my interests. I'm able to focus on topics that I actually want to talk about. For example, in Project 1, I talked about art as a value. As an art student, it seemed pretty obvious that I would talk about something like that. But as a meta value, I had to explore both what made art, and also how that influenced me. This idea of the meta-ness of art as a value was really the reason that I chose it. I could have done anything. I could have done education, which is something I value, or I could have done creativity, which is what I'm talking about now, but I really wanted to focus on art because that was such a challenge to get into words. Creative ideas end up as a satisfying product. I used to be very anxious about my academic success, but now that I've grown up a little bit, now that I have a bit more life experience, I've realized that satisfaction is what I want to focus on more than perfection. Satisfaction with a project or an essay will forever matter more than a grade that I'll forget about by next semester. Creative ideas are harder to prove than straightforward ideas, and perhaps that will reflect in my grades going on forth, but I believe that creative ideas will lead to more critical thinking. This is because creative thinking does foster critical thinking. Creative ideas are what lead to rich research. If I already knew what I wanted to write about, what would the point in research even be? And if I had an idea for what I wanted to research, why? Why would I? For example, Project 3, we had to find an article that we disagreed with, and there were plenty to choose that I disagreed with, but none of them were ones I wanted to write about. Or if I wanted to write about them, they would be so deeply upsetting that I couldn't. So I had to find a compromise between disagreement and being able to be neutral about them. And as someone who believes strongly in a lot of the political a lot of the political ongoings, in the world right now, I had to find a more unusual pick. I ended up picking an article about education and technology, which the combination of those two things are not something that someone would usually find a socio-political issue. While that's not obvious to some, I believed that that was the best choice I could have made, because I think it is such an interesting topic that I hadn't really seen talked about much. And as soon as I found that article by Jessica Gross, I really wanted to talk about it. With this led to interesting synthesis, stuff that might not be obvious to people, but it also would have been so boring to see such a linear connection. And furthermore, that led to an interesting conclusion. Not a reach, per se, but something that is difficult to prove, including this speech. But hopefully, this conclusion will prove my point for me. To recap, creativity is something that has improved my relationship with academia vastly. I'll use it in my studio classes for what I hope are obvious reasons as an artist, but it will also help me finish actual general education work. And it will help make my education more related to me as a person. Why would I waste so much money to get an education that I'm so distant from? Creativity will also help me advance my critical thinking skills by trying to prove something that is harder to prove than something linear. This will allow me to work on that synthesis that we have been talking about all semester. Thank you.